Where did we come from? Really though, disregarding the evolution theory, we can turn our attention towards alternative theory. Beliefs vary from person to person, so it's hard to pinpoint something as legitimate. Perhaps, instead of asking where, we should be asking why. It is a common belief throughout the alternative theories that the elites wanted to repopulate the realm after the reset. What would be their purpose for doing this? And why not remove all the evidence of prior civilizations beforehand, so they can harvest more energy? But it seems as though their intention is ultimately to depopulate the repopulated beings. Very strange indeed. With that in mind, how was the realm repopulated in the first place? According to the official mainstream narrative, between 1854 and 1929, over 250,000 orphans were put on trains and sent to find new homes. This not only occurred in the US, but Russia, the UK, Italy, and more. Alternative theorists jumped on board the conspiracy train at how unlikely this story appears to be. With so many questions as to where these orphans came from and where their parents were during this time, the official narrative is regarded as a cover-up by the elites to hide the way in which they repopulated the realm after the reset. Putting it more simply, after the reset, trains were used to transport hundreds of thousands of kids on board carriages, tightly cramped together, shipping them to host families throughout the world. So, where did the host families come from? Were they already there after the reset? And how were they notified about becoming new parents? Who built the train tracks? Assuming they weren't used before or needed repairs after the reset. Or, if they were originally there, who dug them up after the mud flood? How did they feed and look after all of these children on board? And where did they come from? We often hear about European and American orphans, but what about the Asian and African population? This is nearly a concrete belief among the alternative history community, despite having more questions than answers. Officially, this story began in France 1888, when some scientist saw a chicken incubator at a zoo and thought that it would be great to use the same idea for human infants. He replicated the design to help premature babies, displaying his works at various World's Fair events, overall saving thousands of lives. A strange story nonetheless. Theorists decoded this information to fit their own narrative. Instead, these contraptions were used to grow infants, in turn to repopulate the realm after the reset. These devices would pump out, essentially clones, and then placed throughout the realm. Others noticed a link between a common theme of Cabbage Patch Kids, a way in which to use predictive programming by the elites, telling us their evil plans by growing children during this time. The footage is disturbing, but is this likely to be the case? Evil may just be a perception. Life is but an illusion. Looking at the incubators yourselves during this period, do they look advanced? Do they look as if they could grow a human inside? Sure, they could be hiding the authentic tech. It's hard to truly know. So after the reset, are we saying a group of scientists survived and learnt how to use the old world tech? How did they know exactly how to use it? I imagine it's quite a difficult process to grow a human. Who enforced the repopulation via incubators? And where did they come from? After they had sufficiently grown a number of humans out of thin air, what did they do next? Where did these artificial humans go? Connected to the World's Fair, alternative ideas speculate that the fairgoers were able to take the children home with them. Okay? Does that seem logical? If there were already millions of fairgoers at the World's Fair, why would they need to grow more infants in the first place? Taking home souvenirs is a common custom. Taking home an orphan with you is highly unlikely. If you noticed, there's something interesting about the two of these stories. Both involve parts using the official narrative. So why now are we accepting anything to do with the mainstream version of reality? Haven't we learnt by now that anything can be easily fabricated and made up? What if both events never occurred? What if there weren't any orphan trains and it is entirely fabricated? Just a thought. We often look at external possibilities for our existence. Maybe someone created us in a lab. Well, that would make us artificial humans, not authentic. A scary thought to think, if you believe in this, that we are self-realizing artificial clones. Rather than focusing on only the material world, we neglect the internal spiritual universe we each experience. Life is but a dream. We all heard it. But what if it was true? This reality is able to be manipulated by a single thought that has popped into your little head. Rather than looking outside at the elites, should we not turn our attention inwards, realizing that this world is but an illusion, an energetic purging ground? Nothing we see in our reality can be said to be real. Look at the events staged on a global scale. The partakers are nothing but trickery and fakery, perhaps by our own collective subconscious. It can be difficult to know you are in a dream whilst you are sleeping. The characters involved, stories lived out, fantasies explored, feel real. Yet when you awake, you realize it was all in your head.